Once again, I'm here with Delfina, whom we already have met on the first day of the Pride Month. Let us ask her about her journey of finding out her gender identity and sexual orientation. Hi, Delfina.
Hello, Prakash.
I know this is the question that whomsoever I have met from the community always tells me that it's better to ask. So even though I have presumed, let me ask you once again that which pronoun should I refer you to?
Okay, what is the basis of your presumption, if I may ask?
I didn't presume because I knew you already. I asked you a while back.
Okay.
But still, I think that based on your dressing, people might assume.
Okay.
But so it is better to always ask. So I'm asking you, which pronoun should I refer you to?
In the ideal world, I wish we didn't have to deal with this question. In fact, speakers of Finnish, of Korean, and many other languages which don't have grammatical gender, including impersonal pronouns, don't have to deal with this question. So it's not just idealistic, but pragmatically there is no compelling reason to have a person's gender marked in the words we use for them. So yeah, ideally I would wish that we didn't have to mark anyone's gender in the pronouns, and in fact English could get there. It is a possibility that if they as a singular they becomes more and more popular, and not only trans people but even cis people start using it as a pronoun of choice, it is possible that in some future day we could have that as the default pronoun for any human being. But if we have to choose a pronoun in just an arbitrary category, I think it's like forcing people to choose one or the other categories. And so yeah, maybe I would say that if I have to choose between he and she, maybe I prefer she to he. But if I could be given the choices of he, she and they, I would pick they. But ultimately I think that I don't see any reason why a gender identity has to be a part of a linguistic marker for references to a person.
That is a great insight. Let's hope that we get there one day. Let me ask you about when did you find out or self-realized about your gender identity? At what age?
As I said, I don't like categories and I never liked them. So I don't know whether there's one defining moment of coming to a realization, because I think from birth people try to choose clothes based on the gender or perceived gender. At a very young age in our household, at least, it was acceptable for boys, there's children identified as boys, to be dressed like girls, but it was okay till a certain age, not okay after that in the eyes of parents and elders. And in school there were many activities in which we were segregated, and I think my school teachers as early as kindergarten have made remarks that I did not mingle with other boys. So I don't think I ever felt like I was one of the boys, nor did I ever feel super connected with girls, and I think I never felt like I had to belong to a binary category ever. So I don't think there was one defining moment when I realized, oh, this is what is. I think ultimately all of us are human beings, and I don't think gender identity is socially constructed, and I think it is imposed on people, and I think most people subconsciously accept it, and I never accepted it.
What about your parents? People parents and people generally assume whatever sexual orientation we are assigned to with the gender identity.
Okay.
So did you tell them that I don't want to conform to any gender identity or my sexual orientation? And how did they react?
Said, I think some level my parents knew, and I think I should first say that I'm thankful to my parents, because if I am able to do what I am doing today, and unlike some of my other trans friends, if I'm not forced out into the streets and try to make a living out of soliciting alms or sex work as the only avenues of employment, not that I say there's anything wrong with sex work. I do respect my friends who are sex workers. But if I'm able to have these choices that I have today, it's because I was taught English at home. I was given exposure to a variety of resources, including books from the library and radio, which helped me connect to news from around the world and cultural programming from different countries. But still, at some level, I think parents know that I am different and that I make these unconventional choices. But at some level, there is also some hesitation in having open conversations at home, because I think generally it's easier for us to talk about something like this, gender transgression, in a context which does not involve personal consequences. Like, for example, if it's not just about my parents, if I were to go and ask anybody who has children, what do they think of transgender people, they will have an opinion and they will talk to me. But if it is their own child, they will say, no, you are not expected to be one of them. This is the general mindset. So we expect that, okay, these are social things, these are academic topics, fine. But there is some place where the personal becomes political, and it is, given the tradition and the situation, it is difficult for us to, because I think in a certain sense I would say my parents have been very progressive. They have resisted discrimination based on caste, they have spoken against it, they have spoken against superstition. So if we were to logically extend these principles, there is no reason why they should have a problem with what I am doing. But at the same time, they are genuinely concerned. Is this the right choice my child is making? Why should my child be so different from everyone else? My child will face all these problems which others don't have to. Why do they have to make life difficult unnecessarily? Why my child has to be deliberately invite trouble? These are the type of concern which they have, which is valid from their point of view. But also, I think it's ultimately my life. And also another thing is that it has taken quite a long time for me to myself openly speak about it. So from the time I come to accept and advocate for a certain political position, I can't expect that my parents should overnight change their mind. So I need to, I think, give them the time as well. But the good thing is that we talk to each other. I do love my mother and father, and they have been helping me, and I visit them often, and so that is good. But at some point I hope that we will be able to have an open conversation about these topics. But if it is possible, yes. But if otherwise we are having satisfied lives, I don't want to, as they say, upset the apple cart.
So what would you like to say to any person who feels otherwise, that they're rather than their own gender, or like assigned gender and sexual orientation?
I think everyone's situation is different and people have to choose for themselves. But as a society, I think we need to be more accepting of diversity. Because I think even in school days, I remember I was bullied for, amongst other things, for also me not being like the other boys. That in part made me decide not to go for regular college, and in fact I am now trying to get back on track with my education. So I think no one should be bullied or harassed for who they are. But that is idealistic, and if people are getting bullied, I think they should understand how to deal with it, and they should also know whom they can report to. And it is good that we now have anti-harassment policies like of the UGC, the University Grants Commission, which is applicable to all colleges. So I think first and foremost, I would encourage everyone to decide what they want for themselves in life. Gender is not everything. There are, I think, other things we want in life, and let not the society's stereotypes of gender restrict us from doing what we want to do eventually, and we will have to work with it. And also we are, I think, today in a situation where we are seeing an increasing level of intolerance towards differences of not only gender and sexuality, but even of religion or caste or other. There has been violence against those who eat beef, or violence against Muslims, or violence against Christians. And nobody needs to be compelled to or forced to choose anything, be it gender or religion or any other lifestyle choices.